So tonight we're doing the talk, how long does it really take? Now, I've done this talk before in the past and we've done it purely structural. This time we're going to do it on a purely neurological basis. So what we're going to look at is how long does it take for your brain to be able to adapt to the stress of your life? That's what we're actually looking at. So when we look at what are the 3 stressors that cause us to get sick? I know Miss Donna knows at least one of them. Do you know any, Miss Andrea?
Oh, plenty.
Tell me the 3 big categories. Do you guys remember?
Trauma, toxins.
There we go. Trauma, toxin, and thought. And if I spelt it wrong, it's because I can't spell.
Close enough.
So, trauma is the same as physical. So physical stress, falls, trips, slips, car accidents, playing hockey and getting a hip check, getting hit upside the head. All these things are trauma, so physical things. That's what most of us think about as a physical accident. Toxins. These next ones we're going to be looking at, these are your chemistry experiments, like eating GMOs, taking any form of prescription or medication is a toxin. It's either a stimulant or an inhibitor. As well as the air we breathe, the water we drink, if we drink soda, if we drink alcohol, all these different things are toxins and they will affect us. The last one is thoughts. This is actually the biggest one that causes most disease and dysfunction in our society. And it's not just, oh my God, I'm stressed out. It's, I have a subconscious belief that I'm not allowed to be happy. Or I have a subconscious belief that I'm not allowed to be okay. And as a byproduct, you see people that literally self-sabotage themselves all the time. They're almost there, and they just don't go to the job interview. They're almost there, they decide they can't go to work that day, or they can't get the raise, or they can't do these things. That's some of the thoughts. The other ones are things like fights, or somebody breaks up with you, or somebody dies. Something emotional happens, and that causes you to go into a spiral. Now, how this works is all 3 of these stimuli will come in to your brain, and then they have to get processed. Which one of these do you think we ruminate on the most? Do we think about the chemistry the most? What we eat? How about, do we think about the car accident? Sometimes, but do we think about the fight we had over and over and over and over and over again? That's why this one's the hardest for me to help you guys with. Because if we continually keep putting in that negative thought process, it's harder for me to help you because I have to literally get your brain to adapt past the point of you ruminating on something. And that's the trick, is to figure out how we can get you past this. And we have different techniques to teach you how to relax, but the ultimate goal is to get your brain in a relaxed state so that you don't ruminate on things. Now, the interesting thing about thoughts is that there's a specific frequency that rumination or continually thinking about the same thought is. And it's actually 22 to 26 hertz. So what I did one day, just to have fun, is I took one of my friends who decided they wanted to volunteer themselves. And what she did is she decided to show me what would happen if we put her in that frequency and what would happen if we put her into a relaxation frequency. And if you want to see what happened, it's actually on our YouTube video, but I'll give you a short excerpt. All the symptoms she's ever had in life came up, and it took about 15 minutes. Is that right, Kelsey? And then in 3 minutes, all the symptoms she had went away, and I didn't touch her. So what I'm showing you is that your brain determines the function of your body. Every symptom, every disease, every dysfunction that you have is brain-made. It means you've made it, and you continually keep making it. Now there is a couple exceptions. If you have a huge trauma and your arm gets cut off, obviously that's not from the brain. But if it's not a big trauma, you literally have made it yourself. So that means you can remake health back yourself as well. So How long does it really take? How long are you going to be stressed at your different levels? How long are you going to not be able to adapt? And that's really what we look at. If we have a constant level of stress emotionally, we got to deal with that. So if we have emotion, and this one's always at, let's say, a 10, because our job sucks all the time, and we're stressed out, and we just hate our job. Then physically, what's that one at? Let's say it's an 8. Chemically, what's that one at? Let's say it's a 4. This is really going to tell us our stress quotient. So 30 is obviously the worst. But our stress quotient is going to let us know how much stress we have and how adaptable we have to be to not have it affect us. So if you want to know if you're getting better, what you'll literally see is as we start causing you to adapt better, you'll have the same stresses as you had before, and you won't have a breakdown. You won't have a sickness. You won't have whatever your body goes into to deal with that stress. You won't have a dysfunction come up. You won't get stuck thinking about one thing. It will slide off your back easier. So the ability for you to deal with stress in each one of these forms is literally based on how good your processor in your brain is. Now, what do I mean by that? It means how many bits of information can you bring in, process, put into the right areas, and then put back a proper signal. So it's like a computer. Put good stuff in, deal with it, good stuff comes out. The ability for us to adapt, one is trained. Your parents, teachers, and preachers, everybody around you, for the first 7 years of life, they teach you general concepts of who you are. You have a general concept of how to deal with stress. An example of this is if you have a family where when they deal with stress they become alcoholics, then you've learned that dealing with stress means you go to the bottom. Other people deal with stress, push it down inside. And then these families usually start ending up heart disease and cancers and arthritis and different things like that because they don't deal with the actual emotional stress. So for the first 7 years of life, you're literally being trained on how you're going to deal with stress. And that's why you see diseases run in families. They've trained themselves on how to get a disease, and they've trained themselves how to get healthy. So they'll say, well, cancer runs in your family. Now, it's always not the same. It's not always the same cancer. But the inability to adapt runs in the family, and as a byproduct, they produce cancer most often in that family. So what we need to do is train you on how to adapt. Now, here's the cool part. My job, as being a chiropractor, actually changes the way your brain deals with stress. Did you hear what I just said? It's freaking awesome. I adjust you. We do an interrupt on how you've learned to deal with stress, and then we can tell it, why don't you adapt this way? Why don't you, instead of going into high stress state, which is a beta state, go into alpha, a conscious relaxed state? This is why you've seen things like Buddhist monks or people who meditate a lot. They're able to do with high stress environments, like being in a blizzard, and not freezing because they can literally adapt and their bodies can change. Or being able to be exposed to painful things that should hurt, like laying on a bed of nails or putting fire over the hand, and they don't feel pain because if you're in a state of alpha, which is a conscious relaxation state, it's impossible if you have more alpha than normal to feel pain. So if you're able to adapt, or athletes call it getting in the zone, when you can see everything 2 or 3 plays ahead, when you can see what's going to happen, that's being in what's called an alpha state. What has been shown through research is the chiropractic adjustment will take your brain from beta or stress instantly into alpha or relaxation in a millisecond. Depending on how good the practitioner is or the doctor who is applying the adjustment, means they can even get you into a theta state. Now what that means is where your subconscious ideas about who you are and what runs your life come up. So that's why if you go to a really good chiropractic practitioner, they'll adjust you and you'll cry on the table and it will be cathartic. It's not pain. Or they adjust you and you laugh on the table. because they will be able to adjust you and get your brain to live or function at a higher theta state, and you will remove some of those subconscious ideas about who you are and allow you to heal better. That will literally let you know. If you really want to know who a good doctor is, ask them if they've ever had somebody laugh on the table and cry on the table and be cathartic or relaxing, and you'll know how good the doctor is. That means they can apply the right adjustment at the right time to break the loop that's causing you to get sick. Does that make sense? So, first off, how bad is our emotional, physical, and chemical stress? Let's see. Our stress quotient on this person looks like 22. That's pretty high. We want this to be as low as possible. We can get them real low, like 6 or 7 or 10 or something like that. We're doing really well. But when we start getting really high, it means that your body is continually taking in information. And what does it do? It goes into a defense mode. And that defense mode is called fight, flight, or freeze, or fight or flight. This is where disease comes from. This is where dysfunction comes from. Because we get so stressed out and we stay here that we don't allow our body to go into relaxation. Or we don't get enough alpha or theta state. And so what we need to do is train the brain. So the simple answer is, how long does it take? How long do you want to stay stressed? That's really what it comes down to. How long are you going to allow these different factors to come into your life? I've seen people that have had huge disease functions decide to change their life, change their emotional stress, change their physical stress, and change their chemical stress. And within 3 months, I've seen diabetes go away, or MS go away. And I've seen other people that it takes years because they don't want to take control of their life. Ultimately, you're in control of your life. Your stress is self-induced. You go, well, no, the car hit me. Okay. Does it hit you every day? Does the emotional stress happen every day? Because it's not the car that crashed into you that's causing the ultimate stress. It's you being stuck in that state and not doing anything proactive to break that loop. Now, the proactive things you can do are obviously an adjustment to break the loop, neuro and biofeedback, but then there's also other techniques that I teach you guys. One is diaphragmatic breathing, progressive muscle relaxation. Another one is literally a somatic change, so you can actually regulate the temperature in your hands and regulate how sweaty or dry your hands get. When you train yourself to do this, what you're actually training yourself to do is turn the stress response off. So all these things that I talked about, cold hands, sweaty hands, dry hands, these indicate, and how you breathe, these really indicate, can you turn relaxation on, or do you get stuck at stress and let your body run you? An easy way for to explain this is, the definition of an addiction is when your body runs you and not your brain. So if your body is addicted to stress, it will actually be addicted to the hormones correlated to it. And if you want to see what this looks like, talk to somebody who's chronically angry or somebody who's chronically gossiping and ask them why they do it. And if they're truthful with you, the reason they outburst is because they get a payoff or reward. They actually get a dopamine rush and it makes them feel better. Or the reason why they gossip is because they get a payoff and they feel better. These are compensation techniques to deal with the chronic stress that they're under. Does that make sense? So what we need to do is learn how we're compensating. Some people will use physical activity, some people will use drugs, some people will use sex, some people will use anger, some people will use outbursts. It's each person has a different way of adapting to stress. But what we want to really look at is, how are our stress quotients affecting us, and how responsible are we to the fact that we are in control of our own health? And at any point we can decide if we want to stay healthy or get healthy, or allow ourselves to get sick. It's the same as going to the gym. If you go to the gym one day, are you going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger the next day? The answer is no. If you're going to change stress for one day, don't expect your diseases to all go away. We have to train ourselves gradually to allow ourselves to get better. Now, don't get me wrong, going to the gym once is going to help you, but it's not going to radically change your life. So what we want to do is gradually decide which one of these we want to take on. If we want to take on chemical stress, and I'll give you examples of how this works. If you're somebody who chemical stress is making you sick, and let's say that your brain can deal with 10 bits of stress, I'm just making generalities here, and you're getting 11 bits of stress, and emotional and physical is putting you to a 10, and chemical, or let's say emotional and physical is putting you to a 9, and chemical is putting you to, it's like 3 more, so it puts you at a 12. If you change your chemical stress by eating vegetarian, by taking in good foods, then your body is not stressed out as much chemically anymore, and then they get healthy. Because the stress stops them from getting sick, because they've decreased one of the stressors. Now they can deal with it because they have an ability to adapt to a certain level of stress, and now their body starts to heal and their disease process will go away. But what happens if the chemical stress is already low and the physical and emotional are the ones doing it? Then changing your diet isn't going to change it. We have to change the other factors that are leading us to being sick. This is why diet helps some people and doesn't help others. And that's why we see it going here and there. And don't get me wrong, I love the fact that if you eat well, it's good for you. The key is that we want to stay that way. We want to keep all our stress levels at a lower level. We don't want to just go, if I only eat well, then everything else is okay. It's like saying if I only meditate, it doesn't matter if I go out and shoot heroin. It's like everybody knows that's stupid. Because the meditation is supposed to help us with the emotional stress. Or if I exercise correctly and allow my body to burn off some chemical stress and some emotional stress. All of these are intertwined. So the key is this. We want to limit our physical, emotional, and chemical stresses. Easiest way to limit chemical stress is diet. And the very easiest way is to drink more water. Clean water. Not water that has any fluoride or chloride in it. If you drink that, it'll actually make you get sicker. So you want no fluoride, chloride in it. You drink it, and it will flush you out. Most of the people I see, they're actually dehydrated. If you want to see how well you are, it's one simple thing to do. If your urine has any color in it, you're dehydrated. It has to be clear. Clear urine means you're healthy. Even if you take B vitamins in the morning, you'll pee a little bit, and then you'll pee again, and then it'll be clear again. But if it's yellow continually, the darker it is, the more dehydrated you are. And if we think of water as the fluid equivalent to what oil would be to the engine, if you're dehydrated, you're running your engine on empty. Basically no oil, and you're burning it out. So you're burning your body out. Hydration is the easiest way to fix chemical. And then we want to see what we put in. We obviously want to make sure we want to put good products in. Physical stress. This is going to be, for most of us, how do we work? Are we sitting at a desk? Majority of society sits at a desk. If we can make sure that we change that by maybe getting a standing desk or standing up every hour and moving around so we can change our body, because there's structural deformation that can happen when we do this. The muscles will eventually stop firing correctly if you're in a seated position, and you can actually get a thing called hysteresis and creep, which means ligamentous deformation will happen, and then we'll get problems in the structure of our body. So just stand up and sit down, walk around. Every hour, go to the water cooler and walk back. That little motion will change how your body's doing. And the last one is emotional stress. Emotional stress obviously has multiple factors to it. The easiest one I can tell you guys to do to help yourselves out is to journal. Journal about what you're happy with, journal about what you're not happy with. And if you're not happy with it, journal about it and then burn it and then don't have to think about it again. But journal. Because what happens is, if we don't get it out of our system, our body will subconsciously ingrain whatever we're ruminating on or stressed over, and when we fall asleep, that will start becoming our norm. And you can notice this, if you want to see how it works, go to sleep, and the last thing you watch before you go to sleep is the news, and see how you sleep. And then go to sleep the next time, and the last thing you watch before you go to sleep is something relaxing and calming, like maybe just a nice sunset on the television or the Fish Channel or something like that. And you'll notice the difference, because the difference is whatever you put in last, your body's going to want to go through. Because when you sleep, you actually process everything you've seen during the day. So if you put a lot of stress in at the end of the day, you'll be processing those things. These are the easy ones to deal with the stress. Now, to change the way the brain works, there's only been one way that they've shown to change brain function instantly, and that's actually the chiropractic adjustment. The chiropractic adjustment is so powerful that research has shown neurofeedback, or when you train the brain, you have to do between 50 to 100 sessions to get equivalent to what one chiropractic adjustment can do in changing the brain function. This is why chiropractic can claim so many things, because it instantly takes you from stress and puts you in relaxation. So if we've decreased our stresses, now we want to increase our processing ability. Each time you get adjusted, you process quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. And now we want to put in, how do we deal with it correctly? We want to put in the right frequency. The frequency that we train the new neurons to fire at determines how healthy we'll be. So what we do in our office here is we do neurofeedback, which changes the frequencies, biofeedback to train the body, because remember, if the body's running you and you're staying in stress, you can't get out of that. Biofeedback to train the body to relax, and then the final thing we do is a thing called Neuro Entrainement. And what it is a product I have called MindTap, and what it does is it literally trains the brain to stay in that right frequency. So we adjust you to make more neurons, it's called neurolation. We train your brain to fire at the right frequency, and the new neurons do. And then as a byproduct, the same stressors don't affect you, and if you bring down your stressors and increase your productivity, then in your ability to deal with stress, what happens? You get healthy, you get smarter, you get quicker. Things that you haven't had happen, like ability to run 5K, or ability to work out, or ability to speak to somebody who pisses you off all the time and then they don't piss you off all the time, will happen. The biggest thing I've seen with this, with the chiropractic adjustment, is I adjusted a lady. She came back the next day and said, I don't know what you did, but I don't want to yell at my husband anymore.
He's
He
happy.
was all upset.
Yeah, he wasn't upset at all. And what we did is we took her out of stress. She was a realtor. She was stressed all the time. She was sleeping an average of 3 hours a night for the last 4 years. So we adjusted her. We instantly adjusted her into alpha. She went home and slept, and it changed her life. Just as an anecdotal part of the story, she came back and told me 3 months later, and this was cool, this was my first adjustment here in Colorado. She goes, thank you, Dr. Josh, you saved my marriage. We were going to sign the divorce papers in 2 weeks, and after you adjusted me, I didn't want to do them anymore. And we took care of the husband, and then we didn't have any problems. So that's how far-reaching the adjustment is that you change the brain's ability to heal. How big of a change you have is dependent on how much of this do you got. So if we can make you adapt quicker, and we can decrease your stress even one on each of them or one on one of them, you will heal quicker and you will get better. That's why these are factors. Chemical, emotional, and physical, they are factors. You just have to decide which one's the easiest, and food's usually the easiest. And water, helping with that chemical as well, is the easiest to change. Those are the biggest things for you guys to start with, is drinking that healthy water and drink until your urine is clear. Then you know, you're clear and healthy. So how long does it take? The answer is, for most people in America that are overstressed, it's going to take 6 months to a year to get them to a place where they can adapt. But if you really attack these and determine how fast do I want to change my emotional stress, how fast do I want to change my physical and chemical, with those different factors that I let you know, then we can cut it in half. So it really comes down to how quickly you want to work, because ultimately you're in control of your health. Thank you.